You know what? I kind of feel like automotive manufacturers have lost their way a little bit, at least as far as enthusiasts are concerned in recent years. And I kind of feel like BMW is perhaps one of the brands that I've noticed that the most with. Now, growing up, I absolutely loved Beamers. My dad loved Beamers, so it just sort of caught on. Seeing an M car was about the most exciting thing that I could have on the road. Even compared to Ferraris and Porsches, there was nothing that weighed up to seeing an M badge. Knowing it was something a little bit special, a little bit rarer, you didn't see many on the road. There were limited colours and you would just hear it scream off into the distance. Normally it was an E36 M3 with the straight six, and there was always a bit of an allure and just something I loved about them that always got in my blood from a young age. Fast forward to today, and almost all cars are becoming more clinical. They're becoming appliances. They're just so well put together. They do everything so well that it almost feels like there's something missing. And again, that's from an enthusiast point of view. Take a modern M3. Fantastic bit of kits, and every manufacturer is striving to be faster, to be more technologically advanced, to be more economical. And they sort of do it at the sacrifice to driver involvement, sound, and that real heart that you get from a car that you can't really put words to. So that's probably why one of my favourite M cars to this day is probably sat behind me right there, and that is a Z4 M, of course. Now the Z4 M got a real lukewarm reception when it first came out. It was a bit Marmite. People got excited about it, but other people felt like it could have been a little bit more. And you can't blame them. They were comparing it to Pprsche Boxsters, TVRs and things like that at the day, which you have to remember just all serve different purposes. You can't compare this car to a Pprsche Boxster and expect it to be a fair and reasonable comparison. And again, it comes down to what you want out of a car. So I'll run you through why I love these things and why I think they're, I'm going to say it, one of my favourite M cars of all time. It of course came from an era where Chris Bangle was churning out controversially styled BMWs, and I don't think there is any era of BMW that has aged as gracefully as the Chris Bangle era. I know a lot of people disagree with that, but for me, I think they so far have been the most timeless cars that have come out. And just look at the thing, it just screams sports car to me in performance. And what a lot of people do is rip out the stock airbox and put in a carbon fibre unit which more closely resembles that which you'd find in the M3 CSL that the engine came from. Now that gives it that banshee wail, that just screaming induction sound which the CSL was famous for. That's not to say that it doesn't have a beautiful intake roar, nice and deep, even in stock form, and it goes perfectly with the mechanical symphony that is the S54 engine. It just sounds perfect, especially as you scream towards that red line which sits way past 8,000 RPM. The Z4M comes importantly with 6-speed manual. It's not the smoothest box in the world, it's a little bit notchy from 1 to 2. However, it has involvement by the bucket loads, a nice positive action, and once you remove the clutch delay valve, it really sharpens things up. Some people don't like that the Z4M is a little bit crashy on the rear end over bumpy terrain. Some say the springs aren't quite aligned in harmony, so it gets a bit sketchy when you get really involved. And I've been lucky enough to drive coupes and roadsters, and whilst the coupe has a little bit more torsional rigidity and some believe is the more pure ride, the roadster for me just attacks the senses, and it just seems to be the whole point of this car for me. The beautiful thing about the Z4M is that it always just feels so right. It never feels brutal, and as long as you drive it sensibly, it never feels too feels unwieldy either. And to me, it reminds me of a time where cars had possibly a bit more emotion behind them. And it's almost like the engineers of the M division knew that change was coming. They knew that they were near the end of the era. And it's like they had one last hurrah to truly make a car that really spoke to you as an enthusiast. And I think that's what they did with the Z4M. It was never meant to be great, and that ethos in itself is what makes it so great to me. So the Z4M was never designed to boost your ego and make you feel in control like a Porsche. In fact, it will spit you out to the side of the road if you drive it with inattention. However, if you understand the nature of the beast and the excitement within and drive it accordingly, you'll find one of the most thrilling rides that you can get from BMW. These are honestly one of my favourite M cars to ever roll out.